Hello and welcome to another video report on the Zwift Racing League, which is brought to you each week by WTRL. This week we have another race report on the herd of Sacrificial Lambs. This week taking on race 4 of the series, Libby Hill After Party, or as I like to call it,
Richmond Sprintapalooza.
Your Lambs roster for this week had Barry Baz Nixon, Nick Baugnette, Brian O'Connor, Tatum Jewell, Eljo Bemold, and your narrator Brent Robinson. Alright, we'll dispense with most of the rest of the preliminaries and get straight into some of the sprint action because the way this race is set up is essentially we will do 5 laps of the flat parts of Richmond, doing the Monument Ave sprint 5 times. Then do the Broad Street sprint before descending to the valley, and then the finish is on the Libby Hill climb. So this is going into sprint 1, just on the left-hand side. You can see Baz takes off to the line. Apparently doing this. At some point, Baz screams out during the sprint, "I've gone far too early!" But then he goes on and sets the FTS on the whole race and pushes across the line here. And as you can see, I've discovered the secret of his superpower. It's the rocket attached to his back. Baz starts his terrific run of sprints with a first place across the line. I managed to sneak 3 first across the line points, and we'll look at all the fastest through points at the end of 5 laps. So kind of the standings at this point would look like this. 14 points for the talent frag guys. Our 13 points got us though into second, which is a good start. Rhino is a little behind us, and so on and so forth. Good start for the Lambs. Here we go with sprint number 2. You can hear that everybody's revving up. Baz's rocket ship disappear into the distance in front of me. I did make a play to get to the front 10 in the sprint, but I'm just not strong enough to do that twice in a race. And so we can look here at the results of sprint 2. You can see that Baz has once again scored top 10 across the line for 6 points. And you can see that the Talent Fry guys actually scored 1 less point than us across that time, but the Watt Fabric, Wahoo, and Giant guys are starting to make some moves. Now you'll see I'm trying to make a catch back onto the group, and right in front of me as I'm trying to catch on, Tatum sends off a burrito, which, if you don't know, means that I can't draft off this group that I'm trying to hold on to, and I pretty much fell like this. It's all good, Tatum. I survived. So, here we go up to the start of sprint 3. You'll see there's Tatum on the pink Tron. Nick was right there next to me in the black helmet. There's Eljo in the Poor Boy helmet. You'll see Baz come through with the burrito right through the middle. Brian in his blue hat. He's there. Just disappeared. Anyway, I am trying for sprint 3. You'll see Tatum is behind me, and we look at the final results. Baz was the only Lamb to once again score points, coming in 10th across the line, and this left the Lambs down into 4th place at this point in the race, although one of the teams that has been passed by us is the Giant Helston team, which is, you'll see later on, end up being DQ'd for not getting enough riders to the start line, which is a reminder that one of the underrated skills necessary to race ZRL is getting your team to show up. Alright, so moving ahead to sprint number 4, you'll see that there's this rider who's made an attack up the front. This is Richards. I'm not sure exactly which team that is, but this blue rider from Giant is going out there with him. I was going to try more. I knew I was not going to be competitive in the sprint. I was gassed by the time we got to sprint number 4, so I was just trying to make sure that they didn't get away, or at least by trying to pack head up to them. It kind of worked. Richards, as best as I could tell, doesn't end up placing, and but Blue up getting first in this sprint, which, he's a strong sprinter. He gets a bunch of sprint points in this race. So that's fine. At this point, I hope I survive and hang on to the pack mode. Although it is instructing to see how far from the back Baz comes on these sprints. So we'll fast forward to Eljo here, who gets much closer to the front, and you can see Baz come through him to right about here off the left-hand side of the screen with his little rocket. And Eljo hangs close to the front, but again, here's the results. Baz once again scores in the top 10 in 4th place for 7 points, which leaves the overall result at this point with us down, the Lambs down to 5th place, Watt Fabric in the lead, although pretty close to the standings with a bunch of still another sprint and Libby Hill trying to go. So lap 5, and before this sprint we'd talked, I had an arrow and Brian had a burrito. So the idea was for me to get like kind of in front of the group with some speed early, Brian to hopefully sit on my wheel and send off his burrito and disrupt people, and then Tatum and Eljo to try and push through up to the front and see if we didn't, with our sort of early speed burrito combo, disrupt some things. Not too sure if it worked, but Tatum did get 9th place in this sprint for 2 points for the Lambs. And with the 5 laps of Monument done, we can look at the FTS through and see that Baz managed to score both the 1st and 7th fastest times through that segment, getting 24 points for the Lambs, although this Q Molnar's guy from Wahoo had a hell of a day picking up FTS points. And when you look at the overall standings after those 5 laps, including the FTS points, Wahoo had a pretty good lead, although we were in 4th and close between 2nd, 3rd, and 4th all the way through. Before the race, there'd been some discussion of trying to make a break after the 5th sprint before Broad Street. As the race came up, particularly Tatum and I think, but maybe some others had decided that our legs were not prepared to try and take on that break. But Eljo obviously was feeling strong, as this is about 700 meters before the Broad Street sprint line, and he has chased these 2 guys and is basically making the long attack on the group for that Broad Street sprint. And as you'll see as he goes along, he manages to push this gap up to I think he'll get as much as 4 seconds, I think, on the group. There's the two guys right behind him are pretty much sucking his wheel, I think, as he's leading this break at this point. So you'll see the sprint line come up on the right hand side here in about 200 meters, and then we'll watch. So yeah, here comes the first guy that was on the break, here comes the second guy that was in the break, and let's see how well Eljo held on for the line as the sprint segment starts right there. It's actually kind of a good strategy to be in front for this, because you can actually see where the sprint line starts. I'll give him that. Because I gotta say, when I did this, I was at the back of the pack and I couldn't see where that sprint line was at all. So there comes 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm pretty sure we look at the results. Eljo came in 6th across the line. Barry was 3rd across the line. You saw him come through there, so good points there. When you look at the FTS, Barry had also successfully scored the fastest time through that sprint segment, cooping another 20 points for the Lambs. So the overall standings before we head into the final part of Libby Hill had us sitting in 3rd place. So that was pretty good. We'll take that. And now back to me, and this is what my teammates heard as I got my power up on Broad Street.
XP! Ah!
So notwithstanding my exclamations of injustice, we were all in the group. You'll see Nick just went past me. You see, Brian went backwards. He hit his burrito. I don't know if he was trying to push guys off the back there or not per se, but in 1 second, you'll hear me call out to him.
You did that, Ryan. Come on, we're gonna hit this downhill together.
And then Brian comes back into the group, and all 6 of us are in the pack as we get ready for
There you go.
Libby. And here is what it looks like as we hit Libby Hill.
Well,
Germany.
a little bit early. They're decimated now all over the road as they turn onto the cobbles.
Here we go for one final time with 4 kilometers to go. The front of the race, and now launching himself up the climb.
Are those the lambs towards the front?
It is. It's Yannick Stibar, who we're talking about before this race, and what an attack. He's already opened up a gap of 10 meters. Doesn't sound like a lot, but somebody's got to close it.
And here goes Bowden and Nixon off the front.
So 2 of the big favourites. That looks
Brian O'Connor
leading the chase. In 3rd place, the Belgian rider over the top of Libby Hill. And now on their wheel, I'm wondering if that was
Eljo Beemold.
Norway, perhaps.
I think it was. So as expected, this was the softening up. They really...
Okay, maybe it didn't go quite like that. Ultimately, we'll go through it a bit as we watch me try the climb here. Barry ended up finishing 14th across the line. Nick, 21st. Brian, 22nd. Tatum, 27th. And I came in 34th and Eljo 37th. As you'll see, Eljo and I's due to this finish looked about the same, going into kind of the points and stuff. No lambs in the top 10 across the line or in the top 10 for fastest through the segment. So then when you look at the standings before you go to the finish points, we were sitting in 4th place, which is our final standings on the race. 4th place, 96 amazing points for Barry Nixon. The rest of us all coming in between 18 and 20 total points. So that's good, which leaves us in the overall standing. Still in 3rd place, trailing the 2 German teams, but we put another point into the Rhinos and remain ahead of Wahoo, who had an amazing race for the day. So we will leave you with watching my finish. I'll let you know that this final sprint I did end up beating the rider that I was shoulder to shoulder with, so that's kind of fun. Thanks so much for watching. Thanks to all my teammates. Enjoy your races, everyone.